I'm Chris Brown, and I primarily teach still photography, specializing in printmaking. I started carrying a camera with me pretty much continuously when I started college in 1964. And for 40 years, my day job was being a mountain and river guide. So I spent my life in the wilderness. I've carried a camera with me on all these trips, and I've taught myself photography in this environment, and my specialty is landscape photography. My concept of photography is that it's the art of seeing. I believe that everybody has their own way of seeing in this world. We all see things differently. We have different feelings about what we look at. And the visual experience, when we reflect on it, is quite different for each one of us. My goal as a teacher is to help students come to terms with their way of seeing and to become clear about what they're seeing and understand what's important to them, and then to express that in their photography. I think there are three components to teaching them how to get to this point, how to be more directly, clearly expressive in their photography. The first is sort of a philosophical and psychological exploration of the way they see and what interests them and what their visual experience is all about. That's a lifelong process, and one of the things that's kept me engaged in photography for so many years is that I continue to learn new things about my visual experience every year. So there's a continuous unfolding. There's no end to, I think, what I can learn about that. The second part of the process are the technical demands of doing photography. We have cameras that do an amazing number of things and have a million buttons and are very complex. We need to learn how to use that. Then there's, of course, computers and the computer programs and all the things that those can do. And then whatever your output sequence is, whether you make prints or going onto the web, all of this is highly technical. What I'd like to do in my courses is give people a basic understanding of how to use the equipment that's involved, what I call a meat and potatoes approach, so that they can take their photographs and work with them and get started and have a foundation so that after they leave our courses, they can continue to learn more about it on their own. But once they know the basics, you get over a hump there, a learning curve, and it actually becomes easier to learn on your own after you get past that point. The third part of photography is the whole issue of aesthetics. And that's dealing with composition, with color, the colors you use and how you present them, what your subject matter is, what your point of view is. And I find that digital photography is so technical, a lot of people get seduced, as I do, and a lot of photographers, all the incredible things you can do technically, and lose sight of the vision and the aesthetics. So I try to balance in my classes the aesthetic as well as the technical and philosophical. And this is, I think, a lot of teaching really focuses just on the technical and produce stuff that's perhaps beautiful but may not have as much soul or much communication, or may not express the vision of the artist. So that's an important part, and I go back and forth and try to balance all these elements out in my workshops. The last component of the workshop is probably the most interesting and in some ways maybe the most valuable for a lot of students, and that is to share your work with others and see how they respond to your work. Getting good feedback from other visually oriented people is very difficult. So we do a lot of portfolio reviews, looking at other people's work and listening to people's responses to your work. It's incredible how differently they may respond to your work than what you think you put into it. Or there are occasions, of course, when you're right on the money and they see exactly what you want to see. So we do this throughout the course, and for a lot of people, this is the most important part of the course. I'm involved in teaching part of the transitions program, which will cover all of these bases in a one-week program. And at the end of that week, people will have their head spinning, but they will walk out the door and they will be seeing the world in a different way than they did when they walked in. It will cover all these aspects in some detail, and then we also at BDA offer specialty courses in all of the individual components of digital photography. So you can come back, take a more advanced class, get deeper into each of the programs and each of the components of digital photography.